main idea is to talk about AgTech and the US mostly. Is something that we usually do quite a lot. And we have a great experience helping innovative AgTech companies entering the US market. First, let me introduce myself. I work with the European American Entreprise Council. We are part of the Enterprise Europe network, and we are the EN in the US, one of the ENs. And we have one specialized area that is advanced ag, that is focused just in agriculture solutions. We have other things like infrastructures, energy, etc. But for agriculture, we are quite specialized. We have a different team. So I must say first, AgTech has to deal with food. And the good thing about agriculture is that we are humans, and so far we need to eat. So it's a great sector that everyone needs, and that we will need for a long time unless they change our species. But as of today, agriculture is very important, and economically is very good to diversify too, because economic cycles always agriculture is used as an hedging tool or technique. Well, the world. Okay, the world, if we take into consideration the number of startups, the number of companies, the number of intellectual property, innovation, the number one country in the world, clearly highly differentiated, is USA, United States of America. The second one is United Kingdom, surprisingly. No one would say that, but the third one is Canada. The fourth one is Australia. And the fifth one is China. And you would say, wow, and what about Europe? Well, Europe is, you have the Netherlands, the number 6, and then you have France, Germany, and then you have South Korea and Japan. But it's, the 5 are these ones, so you should take into consideration how is the world. What about the US? Well, the US is one of the largest agriculture exporters in the world, but it is clearly the number one importer of technology, of innovation, of inputs, of equipment, of everything. So it's the number one market. What happens usually from the European perspective is that many people try to perceive US like one country, and no, there are 50 states, and you always have to have in mind that each state is different, and mostly in agriculture is even more different, because each state has its own regulations, its own laws. And you should understand that agriculture for the US is really important since they founded the country. The founding fathers established agriculture as a priority since the beginning. Another thing you have to consider when talking about agriculture and innovation are the universities. But before that, to see how important agriculture is in the US, out of the 50 states, 15, their ministers of agriculture, their secretary of agriculture, are not elected by each government. It's elected by election. So you have the election to the assembly, to the senate, to the governor, to many elections, and to the secretary of agriculture. That gives you an idea on how important it is. And in some states are more important than others. That is given by the economic importance of every state. So another important thing people need to understand, in each state, there is one university that is referenced as the leading university in agriculture. So it's very important that anything you do in any state, that you have a good connection and know-how and link to that university. For example, in California, that is probably the #1 state in agriculture, the state that the university that is the reference is UC Davis. Okay, so UC Davis is very important when you try to do business in California. Why? Because farmers are very connected to universities. The universities, they have what is called the extension programs. Extension programs means that besides the classes and the campuses, they have a lot of land. And during the agriculture season, the crop season, they do trials of many things. And after they harvest, they do a reporting, and then during non-crop production, what they do is during those months, they spend the time communicating to the farmers what it works and what it doesn't. So it is very important to understand that even if you are able to reach the client, you always have to keep a good connection with the universities. And then, very important to understand any solution that you provide in the US, it doesn't matter if it's the latest innovation, the highest tech, the most beautiful, the most efficient. No, it comes to numbers. It comes to return on investment. If they buy your solution or your service and they get a significant return of the investment of that purchase, then they will buy it. But even if it's the best product in the world, if that doesn't impact the bottom line, you will be wasting your time. So the farmers that are the main clients are significantly just want to increase yield, the quality, because the quality too impacts the price of the final production, or solve some challenges that positively impact their revenues. Meaning, if you have some solution for solving some illness or some virus or some bacteria, or if you have some brand new fertilizer that has no chemicals and it is with no residues, or if you have a new drone that will give you a very valuable information, or there are many solutions. But remember, the key variable is which is the impact on the bottom line, meaning your product can help you increase revenues or reduce costs. So you have to do a lot of homework before that. Okay, so anything that impacts the bottom line is really welcome. Is there opportunities in the US? Yes, there are a lot of opportunities in the US. There is a lot of innovation, good innovation in Europe, in all Europe. Every region has something to provide to the agriculture world. The only thing is that the companies try to take shortcuts, and they try to reach the market through shortcuts. And one thing that you must understand in agriculture is that even if you are in advanced innovation or whatever, the key word is trials. One farmer has a production, has a land, has crops, valuable. Some are more valuable than others, but it's money, and they take a lot of time from them. So it is not easy to get trials from them, but they need to test your product. So you need to be open to do pilots, to do trials. And if it works, as you say, and if the economic impact is what you expect, they will buy, no doubt. They are not stupid. No. They are always looking for advanced fertilizers, for self-defense inducers, for non-residue inputs, for robotics, for precision agriculture, for big data, for smart farming, for unmanned equipment, for water management. As well, you should know that in this would be entering into, we don't have time for that, but the approach for innovation in the US is different than in Europe. So you should know first what is the US innovating in, and if they are innovating, investing a lot in that type of innovation, it may be not worthwhile to enter as a competitor in that field. But for example, in biostimulants or self-inducers or non-residue inputs, Europe is way advanced. So there you have a lot of room. In precision agriculture, robotics, big data, smart farming, that is another game. I've been seeing impressive innovation in different states. I was in one research institute in Iowa, in the middle of nowhere, and really impressive. To make you and for you to have an idea, they do the tractors, the machines are like printers, and they know exactly how is the field, and then when they put the seeds, the machine that puts the seeds into the ground is like a printer. So depending on how that square centimeter is, they put one seed or another. So it's quite, huge investments. Agriculture thought for large extensions. Remember, there are more than 2 million farms in the US, more than 2 million farms, and the farms are not small. The farmers, they play with economies of scale. The average size of a farm is 200 hectares, okay? That may not seem large, but that's the average. You have many farmers with more than 1,000 hectares. So that gives them a lot of economies of scale and a lot of reasons for them to invest heavily in machinery, in innovation, in precision agriculture, in unmanned equipment. I've seen several farms already. The tractors with no drivers. So those are things to look at before going. Very important. What are they looking for? Searching. if you have something that is outstanding, meaning top performing, you have tried already, you know that works, and that is proven, meaning reliable, then you have something. If it's not proven or is not outstanding, then you will be wasting time, money, and maybe it will be better for you going to Vegas and play. But you need that, and then you need to have help in entering the farmers' world. Farmers that will trust you to perform trials, and universities that will have time to try your products too. As well, the universities, each one is specialized in, for example, there is a new university, UC Merced, in the middle of nowhere in California, from Sacramento, in between Sacramento and Bakersfield, that they had an old base from the Air Force, and they are doing a lot of research on robotics. In another universities, they are doing a lot of research on other issues. So, you need to know really the ground, to know where to go, when to enter. California is a great start. It's complex, it's the largest in most different crops, in money, in things like that. And then there are different elements. You need to know the role of a PCA, Pest Control Advisor. That is a big decision maker. You need to know that in each state, depending what you are selling, you need to go through registration, the documentation, the business culture. Remember, 99% of farmers in the US are business people, usually wealthy business people, and they are highly educated. They perfectly understand technology. They understand chemistry, biology, technology, and they are always learning and reading, even if you see them in the fields. So that's something you need to understand. And then just depending on the product, you have different strategies to enter. But definitely, for entering the US market, you need to know exactly what you can provide to them. Really, you have to do a good benchmark, what is already in the market, and you do a good benchmark on what can you provide to the market. A market research is maybe a good idea too, but don't spend too much time on that. It's more important the benchmark. And then you need resources. The US requires resources, and that's why there are many programs that the European Union and SPI and EAEC and people does. And remember, if you are a startup or you are a more grown company, resources. The US is not cheap. And I'm just going to provide you one example for free. We usually charge for that, but let's give a little. For example, in Spain, when I'm located now, okay, there is a very strong link. I know that Portugal, there are a lot of links. For example, in Boston. In Boston, there is a very good community. In New York, for example, for introducing food in gourmet things, wow, there is a great Portuguese network. But give you an example. If you want to introduce advanced fertilizers in the US, don't start with Florida because you know people there. Florida is terrible for introducing any fertilizer or any inducer, it's full of animals. The weather is terrible, too humid, too warm. If you are lucky and you don't get viruses or bacteria or whatever, you will get a hurricane. So don't start to do trials in areas that are difficult by the nature, you know. So start with areas that, for example, Midwest, if you are gonna go into crops, large extensions, and you're gonna go into wheat or soy or things like that, Midwest. Then if you go to many different crops, California, Oregon, those are good places to go. Then if you want to play in some less competitive landscape, then go to North Dakota or Nebraska, or there you will find competition, but not many people goes to Fargo to sell their innovations, so you will have less competition. So depends on what you provide. And I think that I made more than the time that I was expected, so then they can carry it. So.
Thank you, German. I think we should have a conclusion, just so I can use it to link it, just so, because it finished on, I think I'm over the time, just.
Well, but you can carry it and you can, okay. So, yeah, the conclusion is very simple. Before you go, understand that the US is different animal than other countries, like Brazil or the Netherlands, or Spain, or Italy, or Ecuador, or Russia. It's different animal. There are 50 different animals, 50 states. There is a very strong connection, university with farmers, okay? There is a lot of innovation in the US, and there is room for you if you have something that is good, reliable, it's proven, and if you've done your homework in your benchmark comparing to other solutions products, then the only thing you need to do is have someone. I recommend to have someone that helps you, because another conclusion, don't start hitting doors without knowing, because if they open the door and you are not able to enter, once they close the door in the US, they will never open again. So it's very important the first steps you take. So conclusion, big market, do your homework if you can get help, and the US is a great country, and you have 50 states to choose from.